China is spending more than $40 billion on this railway through the Himalayas. Once complete, it will connect Chengdu, a major city in southwestern China, to Lhasa, the capital of the Tibet Autonomous Region, lowering the travel time from 34 hours to 13 hours. This is just one part of a massive construction spree along China's roughly 2,000-mile land border with India. Both countries have disputed the exact border for decades, but the dynamic has shifted drastically over the last several years, as China has invested in extensive roads, heliports and airports, and it's building or expanding hundreds of border villages. China has generally argued the build-up is focused on economic development, but the potential military applications of this infrastructure has some Indian officials concerned, and experts say China's extreme efforts to dominate the region are creating an increasingly flammable situation between two major world powers. The Chinese military's Western Theatre Command is massive, about 2.6 million square miles, more than 80% of the area of the contiguous United States. Much of this region has long been remote, inaccessible and poor.
This is very punishing terrain we're talking about.
Since the 90s, China has built thousands of miles of roads through Tibet, especially in recent years. Many of these go parallel to or extremely close to the border, which has made these areas much more accessible. Because many of these roads could also be used for military purposes, what experts call dual use, it's also controversial. In 2020, for instance, India's construction of a road near the border was cited as a contributing factor to a deadly clash between Chinese and Indian troops in Ladakh. India has continued building some roads by the border, including some impressive projects, like a tunnel across the Sila Pass, and a more than 1,000-mile Arunachal frontier highway is currently in progress. But India's border roads are more limited overall, and most of its projects are smaller. In addition to roads, China has also invested heavily in trains along the corridor.
The primary purpose of these high-speed railway lines is connectivity. But the fact of the matter is, once you have a high-speed rail, it takes only an order to make sure that instead of tourists, you have soldiers being transported on those railway lines. And that's where the challenge comes.
The concern is that this infrastructure network could enable a small dispute in a remote territory to quickly spiral into a large conflict.
China's ability to mobilize its forces on the Indian border has changed dramatically over time. In the late 90s, early 2000s, people were talking about a month that Chinese forces would need to mobilize and then actually go for war with India. Now we hear about a time period of 5 to 7 days.
In 2006, China completed the first major train line in Tibet, the Qinghai-Tibet Railroad. The government spent more than $4 billion to connect the western Chinese city of Xining to Lhasa. Now it's working on something even more ambitious, the Sichuan-Tibet Railway, which would speed up the journey through the Himalayas, directly connecting the headquarters of the PLA's Western Theatre Command to the capital of the Tibet Autonomous Region. For China, this is important to make Tibet more accessible. For India, though, it means easier Chinese access to the disputed border. India has plans to increase trains on its side of the border, but its overall system is much more limited.
As far as the railway lines are concerned, Indian infrastructure is non-existent.
Another area of Indian concern is China's increasing air power along the corridor.
India has a much larger numerical air force advantage against China. Firstly, it has a lot more air bases, and they are also located a lot closer to the front line than the Chinese ones are. But another element of this is that China has the most missile-centric concept of warfare anywhere in the world.
China is estimated to have more than 600 nuclear warheads, many of which could reach India. India is estimated to have only 180 nuclear warheads. While both countries have sophisticated aircraft in their arsenal, this is another area where China has made significant strides.
It is an interesting time to actually look at air power and the air picture along China-India border, particularly given India-Pakistan conflict, in which the Pakistan side used China-manufactured aircraft in actual combat. It's definitely quite a sobering moment, I think, for the Indian military.
Another significant part of China's border development effort has been moving citizens closer to the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. China claims this is actually part of its own territory. Between 2018 and 2023, China's registered population in border areas increased by 10.5%, according to government work reports. India has started a similar initiative, what it's calling the Vibrant Villages Programme, but it's not as advanced. Some China watchers worry border villages could be used by China as military staging posts in a potential conflict. Or at the very least, they're a way for China to strengthen its claim to the land where they sit.
To some degree, the Chinese government's calculation is really about creating political bargaining chips and facts on the ground, potentially for political negotiations.
China uses so-called active defense on many of its borders. It's also known for pressing neighbors into difficult positions by using what experts refer to as salami slicing tactics, where it gets away with major power grabs by cutting them into many incremental moves that are too small to meet much resistance. While China and India have made some steps recently to improve their relationship over the border, experts say the situation remains tense. For instance, China recently issued new Chinese names for dozens of places in the Indian-controlled territory of Arunachal Pradesh, which it also claims.
As of today, the relationship is really at an inflection point because both countries really need each other, and India has the capacity to absorb a lot of China's overcapacity in many ways. And India obviously is in need of China's investment. But that all being said, what they're doing is essentially building up infrastructure, dual-use facilities, and trying to better position themselves, or in the event of a conflict. Despite both sides may not want wars, but miscalculation and misperceptions may eventually be a big problem.